You know what I want to tell you about, because it's like this thing I'm trying to hunt down, is I recently had a guy on my podcast whose name is Randy Brown. And my brother Danny recommended him too, because he works, he's a fisheries biologist in Alaska. So he came on the show, and what he did is in the 70s, he grew up in New Mexico and always wanted to live in the woods. Okay. Like, just grew up camping in the mountains and stuff. And in the 70s, he goes up to Alaska and just goes to live in the bush along the Yukon, and then did it. I mean, for 15 years. For 15 years, he lived in the bush in Alaska, just building little cabins and lived off the land. I mean, like, wasn't buying groceries, like lived off the land, trapping in Alaska. He tells me this story, and I've been trying to put the word out about this. He tells me a story where I'll have to go check. I think it was in 78. In 1978, he's on the Yukon River, just downstream the Yukon from Canada. He's between Circle, Alaska, and Eagle, Alaska, on the Yukon. And him and his friends are living their lives in all these like line cabins they got strung up and down the river. Okay. 2 guys come down the river out of Canada. So again, this is 1978. 2 guys come down the river out of Canada on a homemade log raft. This guy in Randy's circle, one of his buddies, he tells this whole story on the podcast, but one of his buddies has a cabin down on the river, and these 2 guys pull in this homemade raft. They pull in for the night at this cabin. One of these individuals identifies himself as John the Baptist.
Oh boy.
Okay. In the middle of the night, his companion, John the Baptist's companion, gets back on his raft and scoots.
Oh boy.
And abandons the dude. Abandons this guy in 1978 who came out of Canada, who identifies himself as John the Baptist. John the Baptist becomes this incredible leech on these guys that are living in the bush, eating their food, using their stuff, taking their ammunition. He lingers long enough that it becomes that he can't really get out of that area because of freeze up on the river. And they keep telling him, you got to go somewhere else. And they say, you got to leave here. You can go stay at one of our other cabins. Don't touch our He goes up to the other cabin. When they eventually go up to the other cabin, he had taken a bunch of stuff. He'd taken some of their furs and made his own clothes. They boot him out, and they tell him, what you got to do is you got to go down to the river and go up or down, wait for a boat and go up or down. But he comes up with this cockamamie plan where he's going to go to this area. They're like, no way can you walk to that area. He takes off into the woods. Now, when he does, he steals this guy we had on the podcast, Randy Brown. He steals Randy Brown's snowshoes and takes off. Randy Brown gives chase. It was a real bad snow year. He tracked him for about 5 miles and just said, never mind, it's not worth it. The next year, he takes a different route and goes into the headwaters of this river where this guy had taken off with his snowshoes, and he's canoeing down the river and sees his snowshoes hanging in a tree. Okay? And there's a little cabin there, a little line cabin they had out, and he goes in and here's the guy, stone dead, starved to death in a sleeping bag.
Whoa.
Snowshoes are hanging outside.
Starved to death.
Starved to death. He said he's nothing but skin and bones.
Wow.
Nothing but skin and bones. They take him out, and they're way out in the bush. They have no money. They just live off the land. Like he literally has no money. He's got no way to transport a body in the summertime to like Eagle or Circle, Alaska.
Does he have a responsibility to do that?
This is in the 70s, man. He did, like, he explains himself. He explains himself and did, well, he didn't. They took the body out of the sleeping bag. They wanted to check it out. He said it was just skin on bone. And it brought up something, 'cause I'm going to talk about cannibalism in a minute, but it was skin on bone. And he doesn't know what to do. And he's not bashful about what he did. He lays out like why he had to do what he did. And they kept the sleeping bag to use it because it was their sleeping bag. And they laid this body out on the tundra. Told a few people, but didn't really know what to tell them. They never caught the guy's name. Told it to a few people. A while later, he goes back and the body was gone. Presumably been eaten by something. So after we do this interview, I can't stop thinking about this dude. And I'm like, how can it not be that someone out in the world, like someone has a kid or a brother or an uncle, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they never know what happened to him?
Yeah.
There's no, you know.
He's from Canada.
Yeah,
it's the 1970s.
70s, calling himself
People
John the Baptist. Yeah, they do. But I kind of felt like and I put it out on social media. We talk on the podcast. I'm bringing it up here. Like, dude, I would love to know that someone said, like, I used to party with a dude named John the Baptist.
In Canada, right.
Yeah, I mean, who is this guy?
Maybe this will do it.
I don't know.
Maybe you talking about it, like someone will reach out.
Yeah.
But then you got to wonder if someone's just fabricating it because they want information.
No, for sure.
Or they want attention, rather.
For sure.
Yeah.
It kind of sticks in my head. And I said to him, to Randy, what's crazy is he wanted to get an honorary doctorate. And like once he and his wife had kids, he became like a world's expert on whitefish species of the Yukon River and got like an honorary doctorate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's like a leading authority on certain whitefish species in the Yukon. This dude lived in the bush like that all that time.
Wow.
But I told him, he says, man, I thought about it a lot. You know, he goes, maybe you'll figure it out. I thought about it all the time for a while. What happened? I asked my brother Danny, I'm like, when I had this guy on the podcast, what should I ask him about? And he goes, ask him about the guy he found. He talked about the guy that struck off, and the guy struck off with a 22 pistol. And Randy's like, you cannot, in that environment, you cannot survive with a 22 pistol. Like, he just knows it categorically, you cannot survive with a 22 pistol. And the dude didn't.
Yeah, how could you?
Yeah, people would probably think that they're such a badass they would. But he's
how
like,
many bullets do you have?
I don't know how many he had. But he said you won't make it. And he made a point, that 22 pistol, when they found that body, that 22 pistol's hanging on a peg hanging on a peg inside the cabin where he found him.
I mean, there's no way you'd have enough ammunition. Even with a pistol, you're limited in your range. You're limited in your accuracy.
They did everything with 243s in those years that he did that. And they would load like variable loads.
Why variable loads?
He'd make light loads and heavy loads.
Oh, okay, for different animals?
Yeah, they'd make little grouse loads and she'd load their big game bullets, all the 243. Hunting moose with a 243, caribou with a 243.
Where's he getting all the gunpowder? Where's he getting?
They were loading their own stuff.
Wow. So you'd have to go somewhere to get resupply.
Yeah, they had a camp. At one of their camps, they had a reloading station. The various guys that live in the bush would kind of come in there and use that reloading station. And that John the Baptist dude looted that reloading station.
Yeah, you got to kill those guys.